Welcome back. Here's where you left off. A spoiler-free review of Attacking the Dragon by A. Marc Ross. So, Attacking the Dragon by A. Marc Ross, a book that was recently released, and we had the opportunity and pleasure to talk to the author. And Leonard, I wanted to ask you, what did you think about the book overall there?
The book was very unique, unique in a good way. It's like I mentioned before, I love reading mystery and thriller books, right? And this is not what your typical, in my opinion, this is not your typical thriller or mystery book or even a spy novel book. It uses current geopolitical structure or chaos happening in the world. It zooms into one particular area and then it makes a storyline out of this area. And it's not real life because it's just a concept, but it's a concept of the book. But it makes you think that, oh my gosh, if this is real, would the world actually acts accordingly, right? And this book itself is sort of like magnifying that in a situation that would the world actually keep an eye on this? Would the world be noticing this, or would the world just brush it aside? Right, and the two main characters, Wes and Maria, trying to figure out what's going on. And Wes is a businessman, and Maria was an ambassador in Africa. It's sort of like an American ambassador in Africa. So it's sort of like their worlds sort of like collided in a way that they're trying to navigate themselves in their own space, their own laneway, and trying to figure out why this is happening, right? And
so the geopolitical thing was really something that was prevalent in the books, and Wes and Maria are essentially the main characters of the book that are going through the storyline, correct?
Yeah, they got caught in the middle of something that they weren't even expected to go, and it's. I don't want to say related to a normal person like us, but at the same time, it's sort of like it almost like opens up a world that we always talk about, the world building part, right? It opens the world on where this book is quote unquote located. Is sort of like trying to, in other words, you're trying to open this little tiny door and you try to put your head in. Next thing you know, everything is just like, wow, I did not expect this. Right, I think that's.
So did you find there was lots of I'll use the word action in the book? Did we have a lot of Wes jumping into planes, or was it more intrigue, thriller stuff, as you would say?
That's actually a good question. To be honest with you, I was very surprised. There is some action on the book itself. It wasn't like James Bond style action or Mission Impossible or the Bourne series action. We're talking about just a very there's enough action there that you're like, it sort of makes you the characters are put in a position that they have to act, right? They have to act physically, and the character, and they held their own. Right, I think that's best to describe without going into too much detail here, but it is. There is actions. There's a lot of thinking. There's a lot of like WTF moments. That's actually pretty good, and I love WTF moments because you'd be like sitting down and be like, oh wow, I did not expect that, right? So that in a nutshell, I think that's the book is. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Well, it sounds like an excellent book, but first, before we get into that, why don't we ask the author? We'll discuss it with A. Marc Ross next.
Marc, thank you for joining us here. Well, it's just going to be me only to review your book itself and talk about the what made you write this book, because I just finished reading the book. And it was very interesting. And I was, to be honest with you, I did not expect how the book ended. I was confused. In the same time,
Leonard,
I was...
No.
No
Can't
spoilers.
give it away.
No spoilers. But I'm just letting you know that the way it ended is... It was interesting, right? And I do like how it ended. And... to be honest with you, out of the last 10 chapters, I was literally went straight, did not put the book down. So I want to know what was the intent of this book? What was the motivation of writing this book?
Sure. There were several things behind it. This is a thriller. It is a novel. It is not a nonfiction book, but it relies heavily on facts and information regarding China, where I have spent a lot of time. And I like to write books, and my other books have been of this nature, which are not like other books. So in this book, which is a thriller, China is not the villain. Normally when we see China in these books, China is launching a cyber attack, or China is military or something like that. Here, China is the target of attacks, and that appealed to me. And when I decided to make China the target, I considered what would be the most interesting way to approach that. And China has something called the Belt and Road Initiative, which we can get into, but basically it's a means of global expansion, colonialism, spreading China's influence throughout the world. And I decided that would be a great target together with the Chinese Communist Party. So the starting premise for the book was, let's use my knowledge of China, because I've had a number of trips to China over the years, and write a thriller where China starts out as the target, and you have to say, who in the world would attack China?
Yeah, it was, to be honest with you, when I was reading the book itself, when you actually mentioned the Belt to Road Initiative, and I start thinking about the old Silk Road of back long time ago between China and Europe itself, and when after reading your book, I actually did some research on the Belt to Road Initiative itself. It was very interesting, and how you actually incorporate that in the book itself. You mentioned that you spend a lot of time in China. Was that a big deciding factor, using China as the main protagonist of this in the story?
Yes. I have a lot of knowledge about China. I have spent time not only in its first tier cities like Beijing and Shanghai, but what they call second tier and third tier cities, have met people, government officials, high-ranking party officials, business executives, professionals, have lectured to large groups. So I knew a lot of people and a lot about it. And I viewed it as a great opportunity to use that knowledge and weave it in. I mean, if I was writing a novel set in Turkey, I'd have an awful lot of work to do to find out what goes on in Turkey. But China, for me, was easy, and I have an understanding of certain things about it. So it worked out very well.
The character Wes, was that based on your experience, or is it loosely based on you? Or
there's a little bit of it, but there's differences. Wes is a businessman. He's a sort of a contact person between U.S. and Chinese companies. I'm a lawyer in my day job, and actually was very involved in trying to bring Chinese companies to the United States. There is a similarity in that sense. There's also a similarity in my using something about Wes, which really has happened to me, which is in the book, I say how Wes gets mistaken early on to be Owen Wilson, the actor. And I make him have a slight resemblance. When I first went to China at the beginning, Chinese women on several occasions mistook me and asked me if I was Richard Gere.
Nice. Not bad.
Focusing on the Richard Gere in Pretty Woman, I think. And so it was very funny. I mean, I don't look like Richard Gere. Your audience can't see, but take my word for it, I'm not Richard Gere. Actually, years later, I was on the Conan O'Brien show, as he called it, co-hosting, standing there next to Andy Richter, and we did a whole comic bit about me impersonating Richard Gere in China, including advertising bubble bath because if you remember, Julia Roberts takes a bubble bath in the movie. So I've had a lot of fun with that. So in that sense, Wes resembles me, but otherwise, no, he's a standalone character.
Oh, nice. That's actually, to be honest with you, that's not a bad comparison, to be honest with you.
No, but Hollywood hasn't come calling for me to star in anything.
Soon, my friend, soon. The belt to the initiative itself in the book itself is pretty accurate to exactly what's actually happening right now. What was the decision to use that as a starting point, the main point of the book itself, or is it, or do you have other initiative that the Chinese government's using to spread their I don't know how the best way to describe it is, colonialism, or I think it's the best
influence. Actually, I view it as a form of colonialism. Yes, where China isn't going in and occupying countries. But, the Belt and Road Initiative basically started as China building infrastructure projects, some of them like ports, railroads, dams, things of that sort, stadiums in countries. And it has done so in just about 150 countries. So this is incredibly prevalent. And the way it works is that you get a country that wants a project, let's say to build a railroad line. Chinese construction companies will come in to do the work using local labor. But the country can't afford to pay for this. So Chinese banks lend the country the money. The countries then use most of it to pay the Chinese construction company. So the money has circled back to China, most of it, and the country owes the Chinese banks. And in fact, right now, total countries owe China over $1 trillion in debt, much of which is in default, past due, and has been redone. So yes, this is China's major means. And, if people owe you money, then you have a lot of influence over them. And so China has that influence.
Oh, exactly. How about the characters? Tell me about the characters. Some of the characters that you have in the book is very interesting, and especially their backgrounds and how they intertwine itself. That was a very enlightening way of writing characters and especially introducing them. Can you tell me about some of the characters? For example, some of the Chinese ministers and some of the characters in Africa and all that good stuff.
Right. Well, the protagonists are Wes and Maria, and they're both American. One's a businessman, the other's an ambassador to an African country. Many of the characters are from China and live in China, including some of the villains. One of the most interesting characters, I think, is a character by the name of Chi Zhuzhao, who starts out as he's going to be an engineer. He's finishing up engineering college. He's going to be, his future looks good. He makes one inadvertent comment, minor little statement that the party takes adversely. And suddenly he becomes unemployable and ends up as a factory worker in a steel mill in northern China in the snow belt. And his life is destroyed as a result. And the concept of somebody failing to toe the party line and having severe adverse consequences is real. You can't ignore that, and people are careful what they say. But this character expands this role a little bit and is then confronted with a series of moral and ethical dilemmas. He has a daughter who is very sick. The doctors can't help him. Somebody comes to him, an unknown person who we later discover is part of the terrorist group, and seeks his help in sabotage and assures him that nobody will be hurt. But as a result of the sabotage, the idea is that his daughter will get help. He will get money, etc. And throughout the book, this character, who started out as a very simple man, runs into continuing series of ethical dilemmas and forced to become, in effect, almost like a spy. So that to me is probably my favorite character in the book. And my main villain, is an interesting fellow who suffered rejection, suffered discrimination. He's got a lot of angst and a lot of revenge that he wants, but he's also got an underlying good heart because he plays a critical role in helping somebody where he doesn't have to. So I enjoyed mixing those characters up like that. Not everybody is all good or all bad.
Yeah, it's a very good mixture between good and bad throughout the book itself. How about locations? Some of the locations you have, are very interesting, and I ended up Googling some of them, and I was very surprised about the location of the Buddha. And to be honest with you, I totally forgot it was in that location. I seen photos of it. I seen like social media people going there and checking it out and going up the stairs and all that good stuff. And I forgot it's actually there. It was very interesting.
Every location in China is a place that I have been to. And hopefully that is conveyed through the descriptions of those places. The Buddha, that you're referring to is called the giant Lishan Buddha. And this is a Buddha that was carved into a cliff. I think it's about 800 years ago. And it is 270 feet high. And below it is an area where 3 different rivers meet and collide. And staircases have been built alongside it on both sides. So tourists can descend from the top, from the head, all the way down below the feet, look at the Buddha, and come back up on the other side. There's a big business in boats going out on the rivers to look at the Buddha from that angle. And it's a major, major tourist site. And it's an incredibly impressive thing, especially when you consider how long ago it was built and the tools they would have had. And what occurred to me was I was looking at those stairs and they're wobbly. These aren't, the most secure staircases you could ever find. And there's some risk of damage, and there's always people going down them and up. And I will say, as much as I am fond of the Chinese people, they're not the most polite when it comes to moving in a crowd as versus pushing and shoving and sort of making their way. So I thought it would be interesting to have a chase scene there, but I didn't want to have the chase scene going down the staircase. So the chase scene is going up the staircase. And my poor character that I just mentioned a few minutes ago, Zi Zhuzhao, who's a middle-aged man, not in condition, not athletic, is being chased by the Chinese equivalent of the FBI, a woman. And he's got a good head start, but he's in no condition to run up this staircase. So it becomes almost like a trudge as the two of them try and make their way through the crowd. And the Buddha served very well for that purpose.
It's a great backdrop overall, because how it was translated very well from the book into your imagination regarding the chase scene itself. So kudos to that one. Totally enjoyed reading that part. Can you tell me about your research? Some of the research you've done in this book was very interesting and some of them are very detailed, especially as you say the steel worker side. Can you tell me more about your research from the characters all the way to the components, to some of the areas, some of the key moments as well too?
The research really wasn't about China itself, because that I knew. I mean, I would certainly double check when I had my spelling was correct of a particular city that wasn't particularly well known, but I didn't really need to research China. But as you said, a lot of it is set in a steel mill. And I know nothing about I knew nothing before this happened, or I wrote this, about how you make steel. And so I had to research how you make steel, and then how you could figure out a way to sabotage steel production and get away with it. And so that was a lot of research. No, there's no book out there that says, okay, how to sabotage your steel. So I had to figure that part out on my own. China actually is the world's largest producer of steel. So that made it very logical to use a steel mill. But Chinese steel has a reputation of not being of the highest quality often. So that also fit in well into the book. The other area where I had to do a lot of research was regarding Africa, because there are scenes set in Africa in 2 countries there, and I have not been there, so had to do extensive research about the countries, in particular, in one case, the geography of the country, and its government. I took some liberties in terms of one of the characters, one of the government leaders, perhaps could bring to mind Idi Amin. I don't know if that occurred to you while you were reading it.
It did, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I had to research was how to build a dam, and in particular, how you build a dam in the middle of a river, and how you stop the river while you're building it, and what do you do with the water in the meantime. And yes, I did a lot of research on that.
Oh, perfect.
But I hope that no professional dam builder looks at what I wrote and sends me a critique of it, because I won't swear that I got it all right.
Yeah, no, as when I was reading it, it does feel like it's well researched regarding how everything was described. So that was very nice. I do want to talk to you about a very particular scene here regarding regarding one of the characters, especially in the bar area when they went to the bar, and when the Chinese worker met another person, and I want to talk about how you describe the bar more than the character itself, because describing the bar, it sort of translates to the character's emotional state, in my opinion, because how you describe the bar itself, it's this in this room itself, a bunch of overworked workers. The character showed up and just tried to drink his drink before he goes home, and in how it was described and how you introduce one of the other some of the characters itself, it felt like I was in this basement bar, sort of hole in the wall feel to it, and it was really nice, to be honest. It was nice to read something that's you started with the scene itself, and you just let the imagination of the reader sort of finish off the scene and how the character is. Like, to be honest with you, when I was reading it, I can see him literally sitting in a bar just with his back hunched over, trying to nurse his drink and trying to figure out what to do with his life. And it was really nice to read that. And was that when you were writing that, was that the intent itself, or you actually had a bar in mind when you were writing that one?
That I did not have a bar in mind. The intent was to create a very depressing place, but a place that was the best that these characters could do. So they're steel mill workers. They go back to poor apartment buildings, and their life is difficult. The bar is in the basement of the building. The only windows are windows right below the roof. They're like, they're not full width. Maybe they're 6-8 inches. I don't say exactly, but they're narrow. Only a little light comes in. And in the northern China, other than in the summer, you're not going to get much light anyhow. The room is full of smoke. I view it as a very gray, dark scene, and it's a sad place, and people are drinking not to have a good time, but this is very much sort of drowning your sorrows or drinking to escape your sorrows and escape your life.
Yeah, again, it's one of my favorite parts. It's a very small part, but it's the one of those parts that for me personally, I love reading that side of a story of using, just starting that scene and just let the imagination kick in. And I really do appreciate that, especially when writers do that to readers. I've read enough books that if the book gives me that sense, I can just say, you know what? It's my turn to write this scene in my head, so I can make this my own, so I can feel part of it, right? And that was really nice. Thank you for that.
There's another bar at the end, towards the end, where we have a sort of spy-like character that people are going to meet, and you expect them to meet in a sort of dive, sort of Dashiell Hammett, Sam Spade sort of bar. And it ends up he's in a bar with ferns hanging and white wine and, completely different antithesis of what you expect. And just by those few lines, you understand exactly what it is.
Yeah, no, I agree, because when that scene came up, I was imagining it, as you said, it was a dive bar. I was literally imagining a dive bar. And when you described the bar itself, I'm like, oh, that's not what I expected. Am I expecting something else, or this guy's actually kind of sophisticated in the back end? You'd be like, he has this hidden persona, So it was nice.
I enjoy writing where there are a lot of unexpected events. There are several scenes in there where things happen that I think you wouldn't see in another book. They're unexpected. I'm actually reading a book right now, Richard Osborne's latest book, and he has something in it that is so clever and so unexpected that I cracked up and was almost applauding him out loud, because I love that sort of thing. It accomplished the objective, but in most books, the objective would have been accomplished in a very different way. And that's part of the way I try and write.
Yeah, I agree. It's like I said before, the way this book was written, I was very surprised in a way that it was not a bad surprise. It was a surprise of like, did I just finish this book in the way that I thought it'll be? You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to describe, because I was trying to describe this to my my co-host Derek earlier yesterday, and I told him that this is not what I expected. It is not what I expected. And he asked me, he's like, did you expect it a good way or a bad way? I said, no, it's a good way. It's a good, unexpected way to end how the book is, right? And how the storyline is, and how the main characters was, and all that stuff. Like, to be honest with you, I didn't realize until I think around chapter 17, 18, when I believe Maria was introduced. And to be honest with you, I was very, very happy Maria was introduced, because I kind of liked how she was. I like how she is. She's a very, very interesting character, right? And how she talks to people, and how she carry herself. It was very, very nice to see that. And for Wes, when Wes was introduced at the beginning, I was like, okay. To be honest with you, I thought Wes is a throwaway character at the beginning, but when he started getting more in depth in the book, I was like, oh, I like this. This is
good.
I can.
Good.
Okay, I gotcha. Like I mentioned before we started recording, that we were very particular. We dissect everything, right? And I was dissecting this very intently, and I was not holding back in how I was dissecting it. Right. And when I got to even halfway to the book, I was like, oh, this is nice. This is interesting. Right. So, but it's overall, it was a great read on my end. And I just want to say thank you for writing it. And do we expect a sequel to this, or are you just going to end this?
Thank you. Well, the book begs for a sequel. And I have thoughts about how to do it, but whether there is a sequel depends on the reaction for this book. My first book, which I wrote, is called The Conscripted Extremist, and it involves domestic extremists on the streets. And actually, I beat the Trump administration because this involves a hunt for the leaders of the Antifa, which now, the Trump administration is after. That book is being shopped in Hollywood. If something happens with it, then that certainly increases the likelihood of a sequel to this book as well. And in fact, I've just finished the first draft of the sequel to that first book.
Oh, nice.
I very much would like to continue the story and see where it goes next. And I will tell you this, I have no idea today where it would go. I know certain things that would happen. I know certain characters' roles, but exactly how it would play out, I have no idea. And that's part of the fun of it, frankly, for me as a writer.
Yeah, like when you just said that you don't know where it's going to start again. And the way this book was written, I don't envy your task of trying to make a sequel out of this. Because
no. It's all set up. It really is. I feel very confident in that. It's set up for it. And I will tell you this, I knew how this book was going to end. I had no idea how I was going to get there or the particulars of the ending, but the underlying premise of the ending I knew from the very beginning, as versus a book I'm doing now, which I've just finished a version of. Throughout that book, I had no idea how I was going to end it. And I had 4 or 5 different options. And then I ended up choosing an option that wasn't on my list. So, the creative process takes you where it takes you.
Oh, exactly. So where can people get your book?
Well, they can get it on Amazon. It's called, again, the Attacking the Dragon. They can also go to my website and order a copy there, which is www.amarkross, and Mark is with a C, so amarkross.com. And if you go there and buy it, you get an autographed copy. I can't provide an autographed copy through Amazon. So if anyone would like to get an autographed copy, that's the best way to do it.
Perfect. Thank you so much for indulging and giving your time for this interview. I really do appreciate it. And we're definitely can't wait to read your second book, and I'll make sure that we put your first book in our list for next year, and hopefully we can have a conversation in that one too.
That would be great, Leonard, and thank you so much. And I'm sorry your colleague couldn't be with us today, but thank him for his efforts as well.
I will. Thank you so much.
Well, Leonard, after that wonderful interview with Marc Ross, how would you rate the book?
I'm going to rate this at 8 out of 10. The reason why I'm rating it 8 out of 10, not anything higher or lower, is I personally like the book. It was a very, very... We had this discussion several times with different books, Derek, regarding how fast can you pull someone into the world of the universe of the book. And the book itself it's a slow burn, but if you're very patient, it's actually very interesting. Would I recommend this book? Yes, I'll definitely highly recommend this book for people who's willing to expand their way of reading and the way you read your books. I definitely highly recommend it. But if you are planning to look for something really fast and really really actiony, quote unquote, book, this is not. You should start somewhere else before you go to this book. But I highly recommend this book. 8 out of 10. I'm hoping there's a sequel because I want to know more. I think that's how I'm going to rate it. That is my rating. It's kind of hard to rate something if I'm... It's kind of hard to describe.
Well, we want to take this opportunity to thank Marc Ross for his time and for speaking with us again. Thank you. Join us next time as we review chapters 17 through 31 of Final Orbit by Chris Hatfield. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share a review. We love to hear from you. Send us an email at yourbookmarksinfo@gmail.com. Join us again right here where you left off.